So, yeah, what I had hoped to show was how useful collaborations have been. I think, what we're working on in Jason's collaboration is pulling together all of the different data streams. He's looking at water flow, water temperature, and parasite levels, and he's assigning a different sound signature for each of those. And so what I hope to hear from a piece like that is when severe disease occurs. And if we had had 30 more seconds into that video, we probably would have heard that. But it's a dramatic sound. And whether that's something that engages people, I know from the data what a severe disease year looks like. This is translating that into something audible. So, not the talk I had planned to give, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'll say you attacked it like a true artist, just, here we go, mess up one, we'll go back and do this. So thank you for hanging in there with it. I mean, I think we get the gist of it. So
yeah.
And some of us have seen some of these. So I encourage everybody to go into the ArtSci website and see these links on your own time, because they are fantastic.
Yeah, it looks like there's some pretty good LiDAR. Yeah, the Willamette River one was the one that I had up. They're beautiful images.
Yes, they are, and very useful for anybody looking at geomorphology of rivers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anybody who has questions, please unmute yourself.
Well, I thank you everybody for having patience through all of that. Like I said, we practiced this yesterday because I thought, I just want to make sure it works, and it did.
So what made you focus on that particular parasite? How did it all start?
Well, it's actually a parasite that does cause a lot of actual damage. There, like I said, there are thousands of these parasites out there, and most of them don't really cause a lot of damage in their fish hosts. But this one, it's affecting an economically and culturally important species, and it is causing high mortality in some populations.
And so does that mean you got funding, and so that's how you focused on it?
Exactly. Yeah, you kind of study what you can get funding for. But this is what I started studying this as a graduate student. So it really was my first year in graduate school that I started working on this, and pretty much have been able to make that the focus for the past 40 years.
Was it your advisor's choice, or was it yours?
Well, it was a little bit based on the funding available. Bonneville Power Administration was funding a big study. Mm-hmm. So we worked a lot in the Columbia River Basin for many years, and just started working in the Klamath the last 15, 20 years now.
And what got you started into glass art?
I was a graduate student and going crazy. One of the things about science is it takes a long time, and it's really nice to have something that gives you a more immediate product. I worked on the life cycle of this parasite for 16 years. And it's nice to come home and complete something in a week or in 2 days. And I'd tried a lot of different art forms. And I think I committed to glass when I bought a kiln, because then it was real.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about a nature sketchbook with your glass work. So, I mean, a sketchbook is a lot of pages as you walk outside. So with glass, it's a little more intensive.
Yeah, I that series And what I really have tried in a number of series, but particularly that one, is to create a collage in glass that kind of brings together different aspects. In that series, it's of the ecosystem. So those are Northwest, it's called Naturalist Notebooks. And they're just different areas that I've been to, and I try and pull in different aspects of those ecosystems. The one that I showed there was Mount Adams, and on that looked like a little collage, and that's a trip that we used to do with Judy, and before all of that area burned off. But you know, it was kind of to commemorate those trips.
Mhm. Have you
I
ever
have a
done?
question.
Oh, go ahead. Go, James.
Thanks. Yeah, you did a really nice job of kind of talking about how art has impacted your science and the other way around. Do you find it difficult now to create art or to be an artist without having science impact that creative process?
Hmm.
If you've ever wanted to do that, you know, you've created a lot of sci art. Do you ever try to do something that's completely detached and away from this subject matter?
Oh
And
yeah,
do you
yeah,
find that challenging?
absolutely. In fact, these are nuns. How's that for detached from science?
I think I saw those when I saw your studio, and I wondered where they came from.
Yeah, yes, and this year I've really focused on the science because it was a sabbatical, which also didn't work out. Um, and it, I'm starting to turn around and do some non-science things, but there's still a lot of science-related projects I'd like to do. But I think even these pieces, they kind of tell a story. They're made to have stories with them.
So do you write the stories like with your naturalist notebook? Are you putting text with it, or does the image is in, you know, sufficient for the
Yeah,
story?
I've never tried to tell a story completely with each one. You know, I guess you kind of work yourself into that little box, well, where somebody says, well, but that plant doesn't grow there, or, you know, I'm not trying to be that exact. Or somebody says that doesn't really look like a rainbow trout. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to create the, you know, just the atmosphere.
Mhm. Talking about atmosphere, how did you hook up with Dana to and got into the music part?
God, I don't, you know, Dana and I've been talking for quite a few years, but, and I can remember us meeting outside of the library, but I don't know, I don't remember what the impetus for that meeting was. Yeah. Do you?
Well, I'm wondering if it might have been that first, was that your first project at the Art Center? The Unseen? What
Yes.
was it?
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been the microbiome show that we did at the Art Center because, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yay,
you were
Art
just
Center.
Yeah, it's clapping.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the collaborations, and like I said, you know, collaboration in science, you have to be collaborative. You really can't do it on your own anymore. And I think in art, it's still a much more, in general, you know, I don't want to say everybody is, but in general, it's a much more solitary practice. But I feel like I've really learned a lot from these collaborations. It's made me think more broadly.
Have you ever collaborated with people from other countries who had stories to tell and were interested in the way you were telling those stories?
Um, Not in so many ways. I've I'll probably be giving a version of this talk if I can get it to work at a meeting in Israel, a virtual meeting later this summer. But again, I'm talking about my own things, not about theirs. That was actually part of what I was going to do on sabbatical.
Okay.
Didn't work.
So I was curious, part of your art has a little bit of Asian flavor to it. And I was curious if you'd ever worked with Japanese scientists on rivers and, and fish over there.
I've worked with Japanese scientists. I guess I don't. I've never really seen that side of my art. Which pieces?
Well, I can tell you later, but I was curious because do the scientists that you've worked with, do they all know you're also a glass artist?
No, not all of them.
Okay.
No.
So that might be why nobody ever contacted you to say, hey, tell my story.
Well, I have given kind of versions of this talk at international meetings, so
Okay.
a lot of them do know. They think
I have
I'm
a question. You're just speaking about this, not having the scientists know about this other practice of yours, and I'm wondering if there's a bias that is that the reason for not sharing that information. And I mean, I feel like this art sci group is trying to work through those. Like we're working as transdisciplinarily. I'm just curious about that.
I guess my artwork didn't start out being very scientific, although it has been for the last 20 years. So I get, usually in a scientific meeting, you have 12 minutes to talk, and you're going to get to the point in your science. It doesn't give you that space. And I've started taking that space more often and giving these kinds of talks. So, and I know a couple other scientists who also incorporate their art into their talks. So I think it's becoming more common.
Yeah. And I think a lot of scientists give PowerPoint presentation with art either at the beginning as a background of the title or at the end when you say thank you, like you have these nice round pieces, which is what I'm thinking of as Asian looking, with just the parasite in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a great, last slide with your name and your email address saying thank you for your attention.
Yeah, which you didn't get to see, but.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, Carol put up a show.
Yes.
Another show. Thanks, Carol.
LBCC, Through the Looking Glass art exhibit.
Yes, that was one that that we did. That, yeah, Through the Looking Glass was Carol's side of it was insects, and my side was, the microscopy.
Yeah, working with David Madison, you could do the parasite of the insects too.
Oh yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I did do a little bit of this year, was instead of just doing my own science, to reach out and do other people's science. So if this comes together as a show, I'll have some of those pieces.
Great. And are you going to submit something to What Will Nature Do? Have you been inspired yet?
I'm on the jury.
Oh, that's right. Then the more, of course you will.
That would be a little unfair.
I'll judge your piece.
So I just wanted to ask, since we do have a number of artists on the call, if there are folks who are in the process of creating pieces right now, and we're trying, I think that we have tentatively set a date, but I just reached out to Dominique to remind me if she wrote it down. But we'd like to have a meetup session for talking about our projects, works in progress, if there's enough interest from folks who have been joining us on these.
Yes. I hope you don't want me to tell you right now what date we had.
Yeah,
picked.
no. But if people, I guess, show of hands, if you have started a piece or are intending to start a piece.
Okay, got 2, 3,
Okay. Yeah.
4. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, Andrew, actually, Jerry and I were talking about that and saying maybe you can do a live drawing during the show one night, at the Art Center, doing a live performance.
Yeah. Plus one of the earlier speakers who had the spider harp has offered
yeah.
to bring that in. So that could be kind of interesting too. I wouldn't want to leave it in the gallery and have every little kid in town plunk at it. But
Okay, well, it's 5:04, and if nobody else has any more questions, I just want to remind people that next week, it's David Buckley-Borden from U of O, who's going to be talking, temporarily at U of O, who's going to talk about hybrid vigor, art times design times ecology. So if no more questions, see you all next week, same place, same time. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Jerry, for putting up with the challenges today, despite all our efforts to make it work yesterday.
Good job rolling with the punches.
yes.